So with the announcement of an update for Craftwars that'll change almost every aspect of the game, I'd figured I'd get a guide out to players who are interested in the game and want to prepare themselves for the update as much as they can, or for just new players in general who haven't even heard of Craftwars and want to get into the grind. Well, that's exactly what this video is for. Hello everyone, my name's SonicAFreak8, and today I'm going to be giving my personal tips for new players to progress through the entirety of Craftwars, whether that be how to get money, what kind of gear you should be working towards, and the steps you should take in order to get to the end game. Just a disclaimer that these tips I'm going to give are from my own personal experience with the game and what I thought were effective to use. If you guys feel that I left out a useful tip, or if you guys have your own tips to give to players, leave them down in the comments section below. I'll heart the comments that I and other players think are worth noting. So, without any further delay, let's get right into the guide. When you first get into the game, you'll notice that you start off with a scrap pickaxe, a pistol, a sword, and 2 tools to either add or remove furniture to your house, which you spawn right in front of. You'll also notice that in the scoreboard that you start off with 10k cash and at rank 1. The only things you need to know when it comes to the leaderboards is that once you get into the higher amounts of cash, it'll change from something like 1 million or 100 million plus. They won't show the exact amount of cash you have, but it's not that big of a deal, so you shouldn't worry about it too much. As for the rank, it only affects the progression of your house. As you reach a higher rank, you'll unlock more floors for your house, meaning more room to customize in, but that's basically it. The first thing you should be doing is redeeming codes to get yourself started. I highly recommend redeeming the Speed Hacks code, which is on screen, twice, so that you'll get yourself 2 speedy potions. These speedy potions are essential to the game as they provide a good speed boost to your character, which is not only good for moving around, but is also good for evading enemy attacks, especially from bosses. I recommend getting 2 of these potions because one of them will be on a cooldown when you use it. Having 2 means that if you use the speedy potion and it runs out, you can use that second speedy potion to regain your speed boost without having to worry about cooldowns, and it cycles itself too. You can repeat this to constantly have yourself a speedy boost, which will be important for most of the bosses in Craftwars. Now that you have speedy potions, or other gear if you've redeemed under codes, it's time to start playing the game. The first piece of gear you'll be working towards is none other than the Massacre Cannon. This is a really good early game range weapon that'll do a pretty good job at dealing with bosses at a distance. The big problem about it is the crafting cost at 50 million cash. We obviously don't have 50 million cash, so how are we supposed to get the money to get it? We can farm money via the Sea Temple, which is a dungeon, and dungeons are typically the best source for cash, but it's 5 million to get the portal. How do we get that? By killing overworld bosses. Each boss we kill in the main world of Craftwars gives 1 million plus the specific boss's drops. So you would just need to kill 5 of these bosses to afford the Sea Temple portal. The problem with that is the fact that almost everyone will be in a public server, and they typically want to get the kill as well, either to get the cash or drops, or just out of pure boredom. If you find this to be annoying to deal with, try getting into a smaller server and try to fight the overworld bosses there. But that's the only real tip I can give, besides getting a private server, which costs 300 Robux to purchase for a month. If you manage to get a melee weapon that can freeze enemies such as the Frost Sword, I highly recommend you use that sword for the Sea Temple. It'll make getting kills quite a bit easier, trust me. Once you get into the Sea Temple, there's a specific item you're looking for in this dungeon while trying to get cash, and that's the Sea's Revenge. This is literally the best potion in the game. You need to get this, and I'll explain why. Sea's Revenge gives a better speed buff than the Speedy Potion. It instantly activates the moment you use the potion, and it gives force field for a couple of seconds, allowing you to potentially evade life-threatening attacks or combos. Make sure you get 2 of these, by the way, for the same reason I gave to the 2 speedy potions for bypassing cooldowns. I also forgot to mention that the Sea's Revenge drops from a Cthulhu's minion, which spawns later in the Sea Temples in the waves. You'll notice that you start off with 3 lives like it reads in the chat. It's exactly what it is. Just try to stay in the dungeon for as long as you can. If you manage to get an item called the Skeleton Claws, you can replace the freezing melee you have with this as it provides lifesteal, which is a really good trait, and it does really good damage. Now, if anyone's wondering why I recommend the Seed Temple over the dungeon, it's because it's a lot easier to farm at the Seed Temple than the dungeon because of its mob variety. At least for starter players. The dungeon is filled with servants of Hades, which are literally miniature Opticus eyes, Hades himself, shades, and knackers, zombie knights, and potentially slaves of the void if you get far enough into the run. Basically, a lot more things will utterly destroy you in there than in the Seed Temple, which is literally only one mob if anything, and that's Poseidon. Assuming you have at least 52 million cash, 2 million more to account for crafting the items to get to the Master Cannon, it's time for the other parts of the crafting process, actually getting the materials. In total, you need 22 scrap metal to craft everything required, which is 44 iron since scrap metal costs 2 iron ore to make. The 22 scrap metal is required to make 2 RPGs, one for the heat launcher and one for the laser cannon. Then you need 5 more to craft each of those weapons and an additional 4 to craft the Master Cannon itself. Once you have your Master Cannon, the next thing you need is some armor. I recommend getting rainbow armor if you can, which can be crafted. If you're not able to, you can make some diamond armor, which only requires 2 diamond ore. If you wanted to, you can get some black vermite armor via the Hydra's lair, which is actually going to be the next thing you'll be doing. Defeating bosses. You can fight whatever boss you want depending on what items you want or need. For this video, we'll be fighting Cthulhu to get ourselves another weapon upgrade, the Tsunami. The Tsunami is a good upgrade to the Master Cannon as it deals more damage and shoots multiple projectiles in a single shot, although unfortunately it's only a chance to drop. So let's talk about the strategy to defeat Cthulhu. The only tools you'll need for this fight are your Master Cannon and your 2 Seas Revenge potions. As soon as it spawns, you instantly activate one of your Seas Revenge potions and start circling Cthulhu in only one direction. While you're circling Cthulhu, you'll be shooting it in the head as much as you can since headshots deal double damage to enemies. While you're shooting Cthulhu in the head and circling it, make sure you keep track of which Seas Revenge potion you've used because this is important. You want to have that speed buff at all times, because if Cthulhu has one specific attack that'll screw you over if you're slow, and that's the Bubble Barrage, as I'll call it. These bubbles constantly track you, but you'll be able to outspeed them if you're under the effect of Seas Revenge. If you're not, however, you will die from them, so it's important to make sure that you keep track of which Seas Revenge you've used, so that if the effect does wear out on you, you can use that other potion to get your speed back and continue staying away from the bubbles and circling Cthulhu. That's basically all you have to do. Circle Cthulhu, always headshot it with your Master Cannon, always have your speed buff at all times, and make sure to keep track of which potion you've used so that you're ready to give yourself the buff back when the effect wears off. Just keep in mind that it will take a few minutes to kill Cthulhu since Master Cannon was unfortunately nerfed at some point. Cthulhu drops the Tsunami, Cthulhu Blade, an Ocean Spellbook, a Whirlpool Staff, and its mask, which shoots seeking bubbles to attack enemies. I forgot to mention that Cthulhu's portal is called the Bermuda Triangle, and it costs 10 million cash to purchase, which is the same price as all the other mega boss portals except for the Void, which costs 100 million cash. The next boss we'll be taking on is Hercules in the Arena Portal, for mainly 2 items, the Hercules Fist and Hercules' Mask. The Hercules Fist is a dashing weapon, meaning that you can double click with the weapon and you'll go forward a good distance, which is great for avoiding attacks, especially if you're only using 1 speed potion. The fist doesn't have the best dashing capabilities though, so going for this item is up to your personal preference, depending if you only have 1 speed potion or if you have 2 speed potions. If you have 2, then you really shouldn't be going for any dashing weapon since the 2 speed potions already cancel out each other's cooldowns effectively. If you only have 1 though, you could consider getting yourself a dashing weapon to compensate for not having to. Now I recommend getting the Hercules mask because it's one of the better masks to get in the game since it boosts your jump height, your walk speed, your health, and your damage. Now about the strategy for Hercules. You're gonna spawn in a close range arena, but not close enough to where ranged weapons are completely useless, especially since Hercules himself is quite slow when you have your speed buff on. Herc's first 2 attacks are nothing special. One being a ranged attack with his hammer, which can be easily avoided and is slow. The other being a ground slam attack with his hammer, which is also easily avoidable. The last attack he has though can be threatening, which is where he does a battle cry and he charges at you full speed. If he charges at you like this, make sure you have your speed buff and just run away from him. Don't even try to attack him while running. He will catch up to you if you take sharp turns, so just slowly circle the arena. You can also use a dashing weapon here to avoid this move entirely as well if you have one, which I do recommend for this fight. Just avoid this attack and shoot Hercules in the head with your ranged weapon to win the fight. Really simple. As for his drops, he drops the Hercules fist and his mask like I've mentioned before. He also drops the ultimate minigun, the staff of strength, and the Hercules hammer. The next fight we'll be covering is Hydra in the Hydra's lair portal. You're honestly gonna be mainly here to farm the black vermite ore that spawns on top of the temple itself, which gives either the black vermite scythe or black vermite armor. Or both. They're both required to make the catalyst, which is one of the better weapons in the game. Hydra's strategy is the easiest out of all the mega bosses, and I'll show you how. So you have Hydra spawn in, then you lure the boss down the stairs. Hydra will be stuck there for literally all of eternity until you kill it, so you can just shoot him from the top of the temple and easily win the fight. There's two things you should be wary of though. One of them is its mechanic of having 3 phases. The first phase is just Hydra being a black color with all 3 of its heads. If you take down all of its HP though, it'll switch to the second phase and turn orange, with only 2 heads now instead of 3. Hydra will be faster and have buffed up attacks. You take down all of the second phase's HP, it'll switch to the third phase, turning red and only have 1 head, but will become a lot more aggressive, gets even faster, and have an even more buffed up attacks. The other thing worth mentioning is the one attack that can kill you if you're not careful, and that's Hydra's flames. Those flames will easily kill you if you're just standing still and not paying attention. So be sure to just stay mobile while shooting from up top. The flames will get faster and stronger as Hydra goes through the different phases, so just be cautious is all I'm saying. For Hydra's drops, we've got Colossal Blade, Sword of Darkness, the infamous Dark Spellbook, Hydra's Staff, and its mask, which spits flames at nearby enemies. The last boss we'll be covering for this video is Opticus from the Void Portal. Its strategy is pretty straightforward too, but you want to get some good armor before fighting this boss, as its lasers will be guaranteed to hit you while you're fighting it. I again recommend getting rainbow armor or zombie knight armor if you're able to farm the dungeon pretty effectively, which you can get from zombie knights. All you really need to do is just run in a straight line away from Opticus and shoot it from there, though don't go too far from spawn, otherwise it won't be able to aggro you and you'll never be able to find it. He will become more aggressive and have stronger attacks as you lower its HP, so be wary of that. If you happen to die from Opticus, don't worry, you have 3 lives to work with, as is for every other mega boss as well. There's one thing I would like to mention when you first spawn in the Void. There's a 10% chance that Opticus won't spawn, but instead the triplets will spawn instead. It's literally 3 buffed up versions of Opticus that are a lot more aggressive, but there's a catch. You can get different items from these bosses, but only if you kill Ruby. If you kill any of the other 2 eyes, you will get sent back to the overworld, so be careful on which eye you shoot. Opticus's drops are a laser machine gun, which is very good since it can be upgraded all the way to Knacker tier. Don't undervalue this. An optic wand, an evil eye, laser armor, and its mask, which shoots lasers at enemies. Ruby drops the wand of triplets and its mask as well, which is a better version of Opticus's mask. Now with all the mega bosses being covered, the next step is to upgrade your gear some more by starting to go from epic and working your way up through ultimate gear, true gear, destiny, death, knacker, and finally omega death. This part will take the longest to do because of how much RNG or luck is involved in this game's progression currently. You'll mainly be getting your materials and your cash from the dungeon at this point in the game to not only farm knackers in the dungeon and get unobtainium from the Slaves of the Void that uncommonly spawn in Wave 15, but to also casually kill zombie knights for their cash since they give 1 million cash per kill. I will give some other gear recommendations as you work your way through these different tiers so that you can have an easier time farming or just getting through the game in general. I'll leave them up on screen right now for you guys to take note of and where to get these items. If you guys feel pressured about the grind to the point where you want to pay your way to progress through the game, I don't blame you for thinking that, but I don't recommend getting most of the stuff that's in the shop right now, except for unlimited cash and the ingredients pack, as those are the most useful ones out of the rest. Do not spend your Robux on the Knacker mystery boxes. Trust me, they are not worth the price tag. A lot of you guys are going to struggle when you're trying to go from true to destiny gear. as that involves none other than Rex, ruler of the universe, the luck-based boss that's required for progression. You'll almost never encounter this guy normally in the overworld because it has a 1 in 100,000 chance to spawn every 4 seconds, but if anything, you'll see an admin like Dice spawning in sometimes, normally in mass numbers. That being said, do not pester him to spawn it in, otherwise he'll spawn the Eye of Azurath, a boss that you do not want to fight. It's Ruby on big boy gummy vitamins and doesn't drop anything. If you want to take the easy way out, you could buy the ingredients pack if you want to pay to win this game, since it gives 4 shards of the universe, which is the material Rex drops and is required to make Destiny gear. Other than that, I have no other tips for Rex. You just have to hope either an admin spawns it in for you, or it spawns naturally. It's quite a wall, trust me. Every player who's gotten past Destiny gear would know the feeling, especially in the earlier days of Craftwars. That's all the tips I can give on this game, at least the ones that I know of off the top of my head. If anyone wants to leave their own tips for new players to take note of, please do leave them in the comments section down below. I will heart those that I and other people think are quite beneficial to new players. If you guys found this guide informative and would like to see more videos like this video to help get this video out to other peoples, and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in these types of videos. I've said videos like 5 times in the same sentence. It shows that best supports me as a content creator. You could also check out my Twitter, Twitch, and Discord server, which will all be linked in the description down below. My name has been Sonic A Frigate, and hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care, mates.